Browns football is almost here, and I am so excited for week one. Cowboys come to town. Tom Brady on the call. It's going to be an awesome game. It's America's game of the week. So a lot to be excited about. So on today's video, I want to get everyone watching prepared for this matchup. We're going to run through a complete preview, some predictions, injury news, everything you need to know for this big upcoming week one showdown. Now, really quickly, we are competitive here at Chat Sports, and our Cowboys report has picked up more subscribers over the last 7 days than we have. So let's beat the Cowboys not only on the field, but also here at Chat Sports so I can get bragging rights over Tom Downey and the Cowboys report. So go ahead and subscribe because you know the saying, sub for dubs, baby. Now, let's start things off with a little primer, just to get everyone ready for this game, running through last year's stats. So the Browns offense against the Cowboys defense, how do they stack up? Of course, it's not really going to be a carbon copy of last year's offense with 5 different starting quarterbacks, but one thing to note is the turnovers. The Browns were dead last in turnovers, 37 altogether, 32nd, and the Cowboys defense finished 13th in takeaways with 26. So that's going to be definitely something to monitor. Now, the Browns did not live or die by the turnovers. They went 11-6 despite turning the ball over 2 or more times in many of their games, but keep an eye on that and see if the Browns can decrease the 37 turnovers. Now, as for the Browns defense against the Cowboys offense, this is where we get some oil meets water. Pay extra close attention to the third down percentage. The Browns defense last year was number 1 in the NFL in getting off the field on third down. The Cowboys offense was second best at staying on the field on third down. And then what about the turnovers? The Browns defense finished 6th in takeaways. Meanwhile, the Cowboys offense, one of the best teams at protecting the football, only 16 turnovers. So we've got 2 elements of the game to keep a close eye on, as these 2 teams were very polar opposite last season. Now, as for a refresher from the offseason, the Browns' key additions: Ken Dorsey at offensive coordinator, Jerry Jeudy from the Broncos, Jordan Hicks in free agency from the Vikings, Quinton Jefferson on the defensive line from the Jets. The Cowboys, they added Mike Zimmer on defense because they lost their DC, who we'll look at in a moment. Zeke comes back after 1 year in New England. First-round draft pick Tyler Guyton is starting at left tackle, so it's going to be a rough NFL debut for him against Darius Smith and Myles Garrett, and the linebacker Eric Kendricks. As for the losses, the Browns moved on from Joe Flacco, who signed with the Colts. Jordan Elliott went over to the 49ers. Kareem Hunt is still a free agent. Anthony Walker signed with the Dolphins. The Cowboys lost their defensive coordinator, Dan Quinn, who became the Commanders' head coach. Running back Tony Pollard signed a 3-year deal with the Titans. Tyron Smith ultimately walked in free agency to the Jets. And Stephon Gilmore signed a 1-year contract with the Minnesota Vikings. So those are some of the key facts and figures going into this matchup. Now my keys to victory. Key number 1, bracket off CeeDee Lamb. I really don't like when people do preview videos and put out cliches like protect the football. It's like, no shit, Sherlock. But bracketing it off CeeDee Lamb is crucial because the Cowboys don't have a lot of offensive firepower after their number 1 wideout. Zeke last year for the Patriots, 184 carries, 642 yards, 3 touchdowns. His 3.5 yards per carry was a low for his NFL career. Brandon Cooks, he was their wide receiver too. 8 touchdowns is pretty good, but just 657 yards. And then Jalen Tolbert, a 3rd-round pick out of South Alabama, in year 2 for him, 22 grabs, 268 yards, 2 touchdowns. He's going to be in a much larger role this year. But CeeDee Lamb is going to be the number 1 focal point of this Cowboys offense. He just got paid a king's ransom. He comes off a 1,700-yard season and 12 touchdowns. The Cowboys are going to force-feed CeeDee Lamb, so it's going to be up to Jim Schwartz and this Browns defense to create a plan to just limit the damage that 88 does. Dallas is 13-5. When CeeDee Lamb goes over 100 receiving yards. So it's not an absolute, hey, if he gets over 100, they're going to win. His second best game of his NFL career was actually a loss. But you got to envision that slowing down CeeDee Lamb is priority number 1. So whose shoulders does that fall on? I'm going to say Denzel Ward. He comes back from concussion protocol. My prediction is they're going to have Denzel Ward somewhat shadow CeeDee Lamb. Maybe they throw a little bit of Martin Emerson on him from time to time. And then hopefully they put a safety on top. Not because Denzel Ward needs help, but just because I'm not worried about Jalen Tolbert or Brandon Cooks killing this Browns defense. Like Greg Newsome and Martin Emerson one-on-one with those two receivers can hold their weight no problem. So if you double team CeeDee Lamb, I mean, where else is Dallas going to go with the football? So that's got to be priority number one. Today's sponsor is ZBiotics. Anyone who might not bounce back after drinking as well as they used to should listen up. Because let's face it, when going out, I have to make a choice. Either I can have a great night with drinks, or I can have a great next day. That is until I found ZBiotics Pre-Alcohol. Pre-Alcohol is the world's first genetically engineered probiotic. It was invented by PhD scientists to tackle rough mornings after drinking. When you drink, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in the gut. It's this byproduct, not dehydration, that's to blame for your rough next day. Pre-alcohol produces an enzyme to break this byproduct down. Just remember to drink this probiotic before drinking alcohol, drink responsibly, and get a good night's sleep to feel your best tomorrow. So stay in the loop and go to zbiotics.com/chatsports or scan the QR code on screen right now to get 15% off your first order when you use code CHATSPORTS at checkout. Sign up for a subscription using my code so you can stay prepared no matter the time or occasion. ZBiotics is backed with 100% money-back guarantee, so if you are ever unsatisfied for any reason, they'll refund your money, no questions asked. Remember to head to zbiotics.com/chatsports and use the code CHATSPORTS at checkout for 15% off. Thank you, ZBiotics, for sponsoring this episode and our good times. I just need a decent game from Deshaun Watson. Like, I don't need Deshaun Watson to go out there to throw 350 yards and 3 touchdowns for the Browns to win. We saw last year that below average quarterback play, the Browns still managed to win a bunch of games thanks to their elite defense. So for Watson this Sunday, it's not about putting the team on his back. It's just, hey, don't drop the ball. Like, don't screw the pooch. Watson is not the sole key to victory. In fact, I think Watson might even have a little bit of a slow week one simply because he's coming off that shoulder surgery. He's got a new offensive coordinator. He's got a new wide receiver in Jerry Jeudy to gel with a little bit. And, I mean, historically speaking, just look at Watson's week one numbers last year. 16 for 29, 154 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Now, Browns were still able to win that game because the Browns defense was awesome. So, similar to this week one, I don't think the path to victory runs through number 4. I just don't think he can go out there and throw for 150 yards and 3 interceptions and expect the defense to still bail him out. So, early on this year, just give me average quarterback play from Watson, right? Let him kind of get back in the flow with things. I don't think that the expectation should be crazy high for his very first game back. That's a little bit unfair and unreasonable for any player coming off a major season-ending injury the year prior. So, speaking of early on, Deshaun Watson historically does not get off to great starts. I think the last time I shared these stats, some of you guys were a little bit confused by it, so let me try and simplify it. On the left is Deshaun Watson's career stats in games 1 through 4 of every season combined. Not weeks 1 through 4, but games 1 through 4 of the schedule. And he threw for 4,700 yards, 30 touchdowns, and 14 interceptions with a 7-12 record. Now, games 5 through 8, not weeks 5 through 8, because there could be a bye week somewhere in there, so it's the next 4 games of the schedule for Watson. He is 12-5, 43 touchdowns, 14 interceptions. The reason why someone tried to dunk on me saying math is hard is that the reason why the records don't add up to the same number of games is because Deshaun Watson has missed games in games 5 through 8 of a season. But what is your confidence level in Deshaun Watson this year? Scale it for me 1 to 10 in the comments section. I'm at going into week 1 right now, a solid 7.1. 7.1, I feel like we're going to get the best season from Watson yet in Cleveland, which isn't saying a whole lot, but I do believe that Ken Dorsey is a big plus for Watson. Jerry Jeudy's speed is going to be awesome for number 4 to work with. And once Nick Chubb and that ground game come back, things are going to be rolling offensively. Third key to victory, double team Micah Parsons. Just flat out. Give Micah Parsons the treatment that every other team gives Myles Garrett. He deserves it. He's that good of a defensive player. Look at the depth chart that the Cowboys have around Micah Parsons. Like, Tank Lawrence is a really good defensive end, and he's going to be someone to watch for as well. Like, if you're looking for a comparison, that's kind of there's Darius Smith, so don't sleep on him completely. Their interior defensive line, it really doesn't frighten me all that much. First round pick Mozzie Smith is going to be starting. We hardly saw him in his rookie season. The Cowboys just did not deploy him correctly, and I'm not convinced that they are going to this year either. And then as for their linebackers, like Eric Kendricks is as old as dirt. Damone Clark, he had a pretty good average season last year. I kind of compare him to not quite a JOK level player, but Anthony Walker when healthy, maybe even like a little bit worse than that. So the linebackers and the rest of the defense, I mean, it's a really good defense because they're coached well, they play physical, and there's a lot of effort and hustle across the board. But their superstar is Micah Parsons, and if you slow down Micah Parsons, I'm not too worried about the rest of the defense coming to kill the Browns. Parsons last year, 14 sacks, 18 tackles for loss. And to take it one step further, the Dallas Cowboys record when Micah Parsons get 3 or more pressures in the game, 21-6. When he gets 2 more sacks in the game, 8-3. When he gets 1 forced fumble or more, 6-1. So, similar to CeeDee Lamb, the path for the Cowboys wins do not solely run through these 2 players. Like, they are beatable even when Parsons has really good games, but it becomes a whole lot more difficult to take them down. So this responsibility now falls on the offensive line, where you've got Jed Wills and Jack Conklin off the PUP list. However, Jedrick Wills was not practicing to begin this week. Jack Conklin was. So my theory is we're going to see Jack Conklin step in at left tackle and DeJuan Jones start at right tackle, which I tweeted this out saying when Jack Conklin inevitably starts at left tackle to open up the season and plays well, are they going to move Conklin to right tackle and Jones to the bench once Jed Wills returns? I don't think so. I think if they got a good thing going, they're going to say, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Now, for anyone worried about Conklin moving from right tackle to left tackle, I hear you. I think sometimes people downplay switching sides of the offensive line too much. It's a serious change. Like, imagine brushing your teeth with your right hand every morning, and then the next day, you got to go with your left hand. Like, everything is reversed from your left foot going back to your right foot going back. However, Jack Conklin played left tackle at Michigan State. He was a first-round draft pick by the Tennessee Titans, top 10. He switched to right tackle and was an all-pro and a Pro Bowler very early on in his career. So we've already seen Conklin make the switch once and not skip a beat. So I think switching back to where he started is not going to be as difficult as it might be for other players, which is why I'm confident that as long as Conklin is healthy, just from switching sides, it's not going to be a major curveball for the Pro Bowl All-Pro tackle. So before we get on out of here, predict the score for me. Browns versus Cowboys. I'm going to give you my score prediction in just a moment, but I want to hear from everyone watching down below. I'm going to go with 20-13 Brownies over the Cowboys. Similar to week 1 last year, I think it's going to be a bit of a defensive slugfest, but ultimately I think the Browns are just going to be too physical and overbearing defensively for Prescott and CeeDee Lamb to overcome. And then offensively for the Browns, it just comes down to not turning the ball over too much. Like, they don't have to play perfect football, but they just can't play the worst game of the season. And I think 20-13 is very much in reach. All right, for one of the last times until the season begins, let's pick a card because this is over once the season begins, and then we'll pick it up once the season is over, which hopefully will be after a Sunday in New Orleans. Reed, which card do you want to go with today?
Let's go with King of Hearts.
I'm going to go with the 8 of Diamonds. I just came back from a weekend trip in Vegas. My first time in Vegas. Had a blast. Wallet did not have a blast. That was an expensive outing. We'll put it that way lightly. Okay, I just got ran through at the roulette table. At LSU money line, I'll never forgive Brian Kelly. What did you say? King of Hearts? I said 8 of Diamonds, I think. No, we're not even close. Just like me in Vegas. 2 of Spades. 2 of Spades. I put 1 unit down on black 3 in a row. 3 straight reds. Couldn't fathom it. All right, we will see you guys next time with more Browns news and rumors.